Hey guys, welcome back to the Stay Unqualified podcast. This is Anam and John. Today we are talking about a story that's been on our hearts for a really long time. We just finished the Seven Circles for Saints model, and then randomly this story just kept popping up, like in different ways. And it was kind of weird because then people started talking to us about this too without us letting them know that it's been on our hearts.
Yeah.
And I feel like as you dove deeper into the story, you realize why it all makes sense as we're finishing the Seven Circles for Saints model.
100%.
So I guess before we even get to the Gideon story, John, if you guys know who Gideon is, you kind of know like he has some characteristics or like character traits, maybe of being scared or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was called to be basically courageous as well.
Valiant. Yeah, for sure.
So I guess the question is, what is it to be courageous, or what is it to have courage and be bold?
I mean, to be completely honest, I think that it's easy to assume that we know what it is, but it's interesting because when we look at Joshua chapter 1,
Mm-hmm.
how many times does God call him to be courageous, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like 6, 7 or more. But the thing is, we can often, I guess, maybe know it in an instance and forget it the next. So, like, what is the continuity of it? Like,
Yeah.
in other words, what does true courage look like consistently? And in my honest opinion, I think it's kind of like knowing that you're weak, but knowing that you have a source to plug into. So, for instance,
Yeah.
terrible analogy, but like your laptop could sustain charge, right? But after some time, it'll die.
Yeah.
Whereas, if we truly knew our condition, we would understand that we are all literally just desktops.
Yeah.
And we have no power in and of ourselves. Like, we need to be connected to the source 24/7. So when I think of courage, I do think of like bravery. I think of being able to stand in the face of something challenging or difficult and saying, no, I'm still going to remain in what God called me to do.
Yeah.
However, courage in a lot of other contexts may say, I got this. And that's like, for me, that's not what it is. Like,
Yeah.
to be completely honest, I am like the biggest chicken when it comes to like public speaking, yet God called me to it regularly. And for me to have courage, it means for me to not look at myself, to keep connected to the source at all times.
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts? Like, when you've heard courage in the past, or even before you even came into the biblical understanding of what it could be, what did you think of it?
So for me, it's very similar. I think courage is in a biblical faith oriented way. I think it's going against something, knowing that you do not have like all logic of this world will not make sense to go up against whatever you're going into, but for some reason, one way or another, you are going against it, or you are moving forward, right? And so I think it is hard, it's difficult, it's acknowledging how difficult situations are, but like for whatever reason you are being called, you are you know motivated to, in whatever capacity, to be like, I need to do this,
Yeah.
I need to face this fear or whatever, or face these people, or face the circumstances, even if all logic says otherwise.
What you just said kind of hit. So the idea that I think you summed up explains it way better than I just did. The idea of moving forward, against fear, even against opposition.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not gonna lie, like the first person that came to mind was Moses, because moving forward in the midst of being persecuted,
Yeah.
being sought after, and then having a blockade in front of you, like,
Yeah.
but still moving forward.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then when you look at Gideon, like Gideon's story, we don't necessarily depict him as courageous.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I don't know that many men in the Bible were considered courageous per se. Like, even Moses, he was concerned about how he might come off. For sure, maybe he didn't get too scared about his combat skills. Maybe
Yeah.
he was trained in that. And maybe other elements of his life were fine. But when it came to speaking to the Israelites, he was shook.
Yeah.
But God told him, like, listen, I'm going to put somebody aside alongside you to help you. Even Elijah, Elijah felt after a little bit of time, and I know that you were talking about it prior. Elijah came off haughty at some point, like, "Oh,
Mhm.
where's your God? Is he on the toilet?" kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But there was a moment where he felt depleted and he felt like death.
Yeah.
And still, even then, with our bravado, sometimes God is still placing people alongside us to kind of nurture and protect us and help us continue to move forward.
Yeah.
So when I think of courage, and specifically within Gideon's story, I see that he was just not capable. It was not on him. And like many other people in the Bible, God comes in and delivers. Last train of thought on that is, I believe in Exodus 19 or 20, it spoke or speaks about the idea of God coming in like I forgot what type of bird. I think it was like
Eagle
an
swing.
eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweeping in on eagle's wings or like eagle's wings and delivering them.
Mhm.
And it goes to show that they had nothing to do with their situation. They were
Yeah.
plucked out of their problem and placed into a better place.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's how I see courage. It's letting God sweep you out of your situation,
Yeah.
trusting in Him, surrendering everything to Him, and watching Him take care of everything thereafter.
Yeah. So, I guess, like, how does his story fit into this model?
Um, so for the seven circles for saints, God kept on impressing that story on my heart, and I know that He was impressing it on yours and another friend of ours and stuff. It's interesting because at first I didn't see it, like I
Yeah.
truly didn't get it. And then as I started to read it, I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's dope. So I'm gonna have y'all all turning your Bibles with me to Judges chapter 6. I'm gonna just show you really briefly. I think everybody really needs to read this story for themselves. It's a captivating story. It's very inspirational in a lot of ways.
Mm.
I will give you a heads up that Gideon does ultimately s- I guess he strays away from God in a little in
Mhm.
a way. That part really kind of stung because often I could see when I saw the story of Gideon, I used to be like, he's a hero kind of a
Yeah.
thing. He's not the hero, to be completely honest. But it was inspirational to think like, oh, God could use me in that same capacity, right? But that's just for some context. He does stray off, but it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean that we need to or we
Mhm.
have to. So when we think of the divide, and we've spoken about this a lot, what do you remember about it?
I think it's just a state of sin.
A state
Like,
of sin.
what happens when sin is in the world? Or, like,
Yeah.
how does it affect our relationship with God?
Mm-hmm. Precisely. And that's like from the jump, that's kind of what we see when we look at Judges chapter 6, verse 1. It says the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. And just from that, we're talking about the divide already. It is Adam and Eve choosing to pick from a tree that they were told they shouldn't,
Yeah.
right? God didn't like create a fence around it and say, I'm stripping away all autonomy, but He was like, hey, I would rather you choose me.
Mhm.
You have all this abundant fruit around you, choose one of those.
Mhm.
You have the tree of life, choose that.
Mhm.
But they didn't, and nor did Lucifer. Lucifer had a choice to choose God or himself, and he didn't. And so the ramifications of that, when we choose evil, like the Israelites did in this chapter, is pain.
Mhm.
It's separation from God. And we read that in the next couple of verses. It says, and for 7 years, he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. So God literally allowed for them to get, I guess, captured,
Yeah.
go through difficulty, go through struggle. And for me, that is what I would consider the wound.
Mm.
When you separate yourself away from God, you do get hurt.
There's consequences.
There are
Yeah.
consequences. And not always is it for pain or for you to feel like there's no hope. Like in this situation, he obviously still loves the
Mm.
Israelites, but he's hoping that they'll turn face and look towards him. And we see that in verse 6. It says, Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. So
Mhm.
they did a 180. When it
Yeah.
comes to the wound, at the end of the wound, when you acknowledge your wound, you're basically saying something needs to change.
Yeah.
You don't just acknowledge, I mean, you can for sure. You can acknowledge that like you're hurt and you just don't want to patch it up.
Yeah.
But then there's risks and consequences to
Mm.
that. And so what they're saying here is, yo, we really need help.
Yeah.
That to me was in all honesty, pretty amazing because not everyone, or not every story in the Bible shows that quick turnaround. I don't know how long it took in here for them to be able to do that, but in my own life, sometimes I will walk in the pain, not acknowledge the wound, and take a minute before I actually look to God and be like, okay, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yeah.
So the next one is the idea of the care. So the first instance that I see out of the care, is the idea of the angel of the Lord coming down and, I guess connecting with
Mhm.
Gideon,
Yeah.
because in this situation everybody's getting hit with this wound. It's not just applying to Israel as a whole, but it's impacting the least of the tribe, and within the least of the tribe, the least in that specific.
Yeah, like every single person is getting impacted by a choice that, let's say, a group made or something.
Exactly. And so Gideon is in that.
Yeah.
But what God does, what the angel of the Lord does, which is commonly referred to as Christ himself,
Which we talked about, I think this was the care one where it's like Elijah, the angel
Elijah,
came to
exactly.
Elijah and touched him, and so this was God kind of showing him like the care aspect.
This is exactly that, because the first things that come out of his mouth, it's both, and it's not just care, but it is vision.
Yeah.
Often I feel like when we are in our hardest moments, we need a word of encouragement for a better future.
Yeah.
And what do you think happens when somebody tells you, well, let me just read it. It says, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior."
Mm,
That's amazing. It's like going to the gym for the first time ever and somebody's like, "Yo, you ripped." And it's like, "I'm sorry, what?" I
yeah.
literally just signed up or didn't even sign up yet.
Yeah.
And Gideon did not sign up yet. Gideon was, he was scared.
I feel like the angel of the Lord in Elijah's story says something where like Elijah is scared
Mhm.
to death
Mhm.
and is at a point where he wants to commit suicide, and God has to tell him like, "Go eat
Mhm.
and rest."
Mhm.
It's like something so bizarre.
Mhm.
And so I feel like for Gideon, hearing that is like something so bizarre.
It
You
is.
feel like you're at the bottom of this totem pole in terms of like the status, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? And God's like, "No, you're all the way up here." It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And it's beautiful because it's not just that, the angel of the Lord came to give him care. Gideon himself was trying to place down some boundaries. He
Yeah.
was literally, trying to cultivate food, let's say, in a wine press.
Yeah.
Why was he in the wine press? He was hiding. He
Yeah.
was trying to do this in secrecy. And so he
Yeah.
was trying to the best of his abilities to put down boundaries between him and the enemy, because he knew that this circumstance that he was in wasn't supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
But really, in and of himself, that's all you got. That's the
Mhm.
best you could do. Hide,
Yeah.
try the, and in reality, like anybody in that situation, that is all you could do. To be completely honest, even if you weren't in that situation, I wouldn't depend on your own strength.
Because it's the same thing as the David story. All of his like older brothers were like warriors. Like,
100%.
David wasn't seen as that. And
No.
so same with Gideon. It's just like, that's not me. That's them.
Yeah, in a very real sense, it would be equivalent to what David's situation was looking like.
Yeah.
It was insignificant if you look at
Mhm.
the, Hebrew word katan or katon. And literally in this situation, God is knowing, Christ is knowing, the angel of the Lord is knowing that he needs that. He
Mm.
needs that pick me up. And you know what he responds with? "Pardon me, Lord," right? "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied. "But if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us?" Valid question. "Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?'
Yeah.
But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian." And the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have." Mind you, Gideon is like, I just signed up for this membership.
Yeah.
"Go in the strength that you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?"
Mm.
Right? So he's making a declaration right there. Like, listen, whatever you got is enough.
And that's the vision part,
That
right?
is the vision part.
That's like God basically putting the way you're saying that spark, that ember in you, calling him a mighty warrior,
Yeah.
saying that like you're going to be saving the whole nation.
Hmm.
And it it's not of Gideon's like doing,
No,
or he didn't come up with this idea,
no.
you know? because I feel like if he did, he would also use this logic of he will probably die.
100.
But the
Like, how do
fact
you?
that God is saying it is kind of lets you know this is a vision. It's an impossible thing.
Hmm.
Same with Joseph. It was impossible for Joseph, I guess, to get the vision of that his family is going to basically kind of bow down to him. I think after everything that he's gone through, right? Going into slavery and going into Egypt and kind of just, just being at the mercy of the Egyptians. How do you stick to that vision? Like, how am I gonna save my family?
Hmm.
They sold me to slavery. Like, and God still makes it happen. He makes like the impossible. And I feel like that's what's going on here.
Yeah, it is. And I love the way that God does things because it's like he doesn't have to choose us.
Yeah.
We aren't necessarily deserving of the role that he keeps putting us in.
Yeah.
He keeps prompting to us. He puts little instances in front of us, and often we can clamor about the fact that we don't have purpose, we don't have vision, we don't have calling, but the reality is if we have God, we have all that we need.
And also we're using we're coming to those conclusions with our logic, with
Yeah,
the world's
faulty.
logic, with what we know.
Mm-hmm.
But God, time and time again in the Bible shows it is not about what you know. It is
No,
about what is possible through me, through God.
100%. So if you keep your eyes on him,
Yeah.
that's all you got. That's all you
Mhm.
need. And so in this situation, it's no different. I mean, here he says, "Pardon me, my lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in
Mhm.
Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." And the Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you
Yeah.
will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive."
That's crazy.
It's just to say, like, yo, even when you don't feel you're capable, even when you feel unqualified,
Or if you can't dream these big dreams, have these big goals, but God's just like, but I can. I
but I
can
can.
dream for you.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's still hard.
Oh, 100%.
You still have to be obedient to it. You still have to face these fears.
Mm. And you have to get up every day and do that. And that's the crazy
Yeah.
part. Like in all honesty, when I was doing Hebrew, he was like day by day. And I was like, and it reminds me, I don't I forgot who makes this song, but it's day by day I will follow.
Yeah, called out music.
Yes, I'll do what you say. Okay, I can't sing, but you get yo, go check that song out. I'm gonna
Yeah.
play it after this. But it's just a little at a time. So when I got into pastoral ministry, I felt like it was overwhelming. And he just kept showing me, yo, it ain't on you. Keep surrendering, man. Keep surrendering. And it's hard to conceptualize what it means to surrender because you're like freaking out and you want to surrender. You're like, listen, take all of this off of me. This
Mhm.
is too hard. But he's like, no, no, no. What I mean is stop worrying.
Yeah.
Stop fearing the consequences, the outcomes, the results,
Yeah.
the standards that you place on yourself. Start acknowledging that you need a relationship with me first and foremost. All that stuff will handle itself.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just really beautiful. So, in a very real sense, the angel of the Lord came down, right? He gave him care.
Mhm.
Gideon tried. It wasn't it. He gave him a vision, right? Between the two, we're missing one:
Yeah.
community.
Yep.
So, in our hardest moments, often what we need most is horizontal and vertical community.
Mm.
In a very real sense, the Lord fulfilled that for him
Yeah.
by coming down and showing him his glory right there. Like, hey, I'm here with you. You have my company. He gave him the assurance he needed. Like, you know who I am. Even Gideon was just like, will you stay?
Mm.
Will you stay just for a moment, right? Can I go bake something for you? Can
Yeah.
I go set something up for you? Da-da-da-da. He knew who he was interacting with.
Yeah.
To have the Lord's angel, right? Or the angel of the Lord come down and you're gonna go dine with him. That's what's up. Like I get excited when I get to hang out with my favorite person and go eat something, right? Now imagine the angel of the Lord comes down. You feel in marriage and in those special relationships like this is this is so fulfilling.
Mhm.
And now imagine your creator coming down to sit with you. What are
Mhm.
you scared of, right?
Yeah.
Community is so beautiful. And he doesn't just leave it at that. Because if that were the case, then Eve wouldn't have been necessary and Adam
Mhm.
wouldn't have been necessary. Both of them were needed in the garden and God was still amongst them. So it's not like the Lord or the angel of the Lord just left Gideon with himself. He presents himself to him, acknowledges the sacrifice that Gideon makes, and then he leaves.
Mhm.
but then he gives him troops later on. And it gets to a place where he gives him so much community that he's like, too much.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, now you guys are going to think that this is on you. It
Yep.
ain't. And he says, I think you have too many troops. Let's reduce it.
Yeah.
Why? Because the glory of the Lord is necessary here. And if you thought you did it with your own hands, you're not going to give me the glory that's needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I brought you to where you're at. Trust
Yep.
that I will bring you through to the other side.
Yep.
The next part basically says this. Gideon said to God, and this is the whole purpose thing. So like the vision is, what did God put on your heart, right? Kind of like you mentioned, the spark. I like calling it chispa for some reason. It's Spanish, but it resonates. The next part is, why did he put it on your heart?
Yeah.
Right? You want to figure out like what was the purpose of it and who is it meant for? So often when we have a vision of like this thing, we often have to think about like, who is it impacting? Is it just a blessing for me? Is it a blessing for others? And in this case, Gideon says to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, I'm not sure if there's pride there or not, but he's saying, use me is what I'm taking from this. If you will save Israel by my hand, as you have promised, look, I will place a wolf fleece. And then he starts testing God. But the cool thing about this verse is he acknowledges that he wants to be used.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that he wants God to use him to save Israel. So
Yep.
his vision is to be able to save, or to essentially stand up against the Midianites. For what purpose? To protect his own people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, how do you feel about the whole like him testing God thing before I even
I feel
share?
like I've heard people kind of knock Gideon down a lot. Like he doesn't have faith. He lacks faith. He lacks belief in God.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest, I'm like, I mean, every other person in the Bible struggled. So like, why is it that we put him so low,
Hmm.
like compared to everyone else? You
Mhm.
know, like Moses actually like spent time with God and still had issues leading
Obeying.
Israel in a way that was, you know, like he wasn't patient all the time.
Hmm.
You know, he wasn't kind all the time. Like he's still human, right? And same thing with David. David sinned horribly.
Yeah.
But somehow like Gideon is worse. And I don't know, I don't think anyone's worse or whatever. I'm just kind of like, I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. We look at Israel like, how could you not, you know, be grateful for God when they came out of Egypt for like all this manna and all this other stuff, and you're just complaining. But I'm like, but we'd probably be doing the same thing. And the only reason Gideon is doing it is because if you're at the lowest in status and God tells you, no, you're actually going to be leading the whole nation,
That's nuts.
you're going to be like, okay, can I get a couple signs?
Yeah.
Because like think about the social shame that he would feel telling, you know, Israel like, yeah, let's like
I'm
him
gonna be your
leading an
leader.
army and people being like, who are you?
Oh yeah,
You
man.
know, all of this other stuff. So I feel like, I mean, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I literally do that all the time. I'm like, okay, God, you got me? Give
Mm-hmm.
me this. You got me? Give me that. And he does it. And I'm like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
and when I was looking into this, it's not that Gideon is lacking faith more than it is God meeting us in our humanity.
Mm.
God meeting us
Hmm.
in our realm of logic,
Mm-hmm.
because he needs to encourage us. The same way we need encouragement from our friends and our family to
Yeah.
move forward. God's like, if this is going to encourage you to move forward,
Mm-hmm.
then sure, what is this to me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I love you and I want, you know, to kind of see you walk in your purpose and your calling. And I also want the whole nation to be saved.
Mm.
So what is it to me? This is just my opinion.
No?
What is this to
I'm hearing
me
you.
that you just need a couple signs?
Facts.
You know, obviously don't abuse it,
Mm. And that's the
right?
thing.
But I don't think God is so mad that
No, I
like
think
we're asking.
not at all. I think humans get more frustrated about that because
Yeah.
it's easier to be like, yo, you lack faith. Look at you, kind of a thing. Because then
Yeah.
it takes the
Just lack faith. Like
oh,
seriously.
150. I when you mentioned Moses, he had moments of impatience. But mind you, when Aaron and what was her name? Miriam were basically questioning why Moses had certain privilege,
Mm-hmm.
God was like, I'm sorry, he is the humblest.
Yeah.
He like God saying, I'm sorry, like they are for sure in high ranking positions too. But it's like, do you talk to me face to face? I give you dreams, I give you visions, but I speak to Moses face to face.
Yeah.
And he's saying he's the humblest. What I'm trying to bring out in this is the fact that Moses was at one point this,
Mm,
he grew and became something different.
yeah.
And that happens through a relationship and a step by step journey with God.
And I wanted to add this. When you also cannot use your cultural context, the context of the world that we're living in now, and put it in the Bible. You have to go look at like what in the Bible, contextually, does Gideon's um responses to God make sense? And to me, they do, because it's like there's when you look at clans and you look at social statuses, like, and how families worked back in the day, I don't believe he came from a warrior family.
No.
And you kind of stick to your family's work or trade, let's say, right? And you get kind of like, let's say, apprenticed or something of that sort to continue on,
Mm,
and so for him, it's, to me, it's equivalent to being like, let's say you were trained in your family's whatever to, I don't know, make wine.
mm,
And then God's like, no, you're a soldier.
mm.
Like,
How's that fit?
I've never gotten training. Though that family's their family of
We'll pick them.
soldiers. We're a family of winemakers or whatever.
Mm,
It's like, no, no, no. You're gonna lead them.
mm.
What? There's a lot more quote unquote qualified people
Oh, 100%.
who would be able to lead Israel, but it
Mhm.
required someone,
Mm.
it required all of Israel to also see the least of these.
Yeah.
In our eyes, the least of these is going to lead you into victory.
And I think that would be the craziest case of imposter syndrome. And I think
Yeah.
that for me, even like when I think about Gideon, I'm like, bruh, please, that fleece would have been flipped like 30 times. And often I have, like, I'm scared, I'm concerned, I'm worried, I'm anxious, I'm double minded. Lord, take that all away.
We get so many of God's blessings, and we still like, are you sure? Are you sure you're here for us? Are you sure you're gonna get us through this? Like, do you not remember what I did for you a month ago?
Hmm.
That big
Think,
miracle?
oh, yeah, yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
doesn't have to be small. Like you do you not remember? Okay, I guess I'll work with you again.
Hmm. But God still works with us.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part. Like when I was speaking to a friend about this, he was explaining that God isn't necessarily going to drop us because we rely on divination,
Yeah.
because we rely on a fleece.
Yep.
He wants us to outgrow that stage to the point where we hear his voice through his word. We get in the word and we acknowledge, we learn. He wants us to get educated on who he is, what his character traits
Yeah.
are, what his personality um is to us, like
Yep.
how we not even is to us is, and then how we perceive it and acknowledge it and understand it. And through that, we'll grow to the point where we're like, it's innate, like it's second nature to think about God in all of our situations. And instead of having to, like, the analogy is shoot a bunch of arrows in the air, and if they flop on one side or the other, oh, we go left or we flank right. Literally, it's he'll work with us in that.
Yeah.
He'll get us from the place of Moses being scared and not being able to do public speaking kind of a thing to the place where now he no longer needs Aaron to be able to speak on his behalf. But it's through journeying with God, like
Yeah.
Enoch did. It's getting to know him on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I get really excited about this story because it gives me hope, like encouragement. Like, yo, we watch Disney underdog stories and stuff like that. We're all about Marvel. We're all about like all these superheroes that come from nothing and make it to something, except for Tony Stark. That's a whole different story. But what I'm trying to get at is the fact that we see this in real life, or at least in our Bibles, like in history. We see that God is able to do that much more with people who are being obedient,
Mm-hmm.
are considerate of his voice, are discerning of it, and are willing to follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we come to the last circle, which is the calling,
Mm-hmm.
we read in verses 7 and 8 of chapter 7, it says, the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you. So some context, he brought them to the river. God told them, hey, you have too many men. I think they had like 30K or something. I need you to reduce it, right? He told them at first, hey, I need you to let them know whoever wants to go home, go home. You don't have to fight this battle. So he's like, okay, I'll do that. So how many leave? About 20,000 or so. So about 10,000 men are left. And at that point, God is still like, hey, there's too many men here. Mind you, they're going up against an army that's significantly bigger than them. at 30K. So when they had 30K, they're still significantly outnumbered.
Yeah.
At 10K, it's getting worse, and he's still
Mhm.
like, "Yo, it's too much. You have too many
Mhm.
men. I need less." And he's like, "Okay, so show me how to do that." So verse 7 and 8 kind of go into that.
Mhm.
The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, so they lapped water, right, from their hands. So that was a test. Out of 10,000 men, 300 lapped water from their hands. I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home.
Mm.
So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. That's crazy. Like, I'm just like getting goosebumps about the idea of having to go up against something that is statistically, you don't even have to know statistics to know that you are so outmatched.
You're basically, all logic would say you're just going towards your own death, and you're
150%.
just gonna
Yeah.
also kill all your soldiers.
Yeah, it's a suicide mission.
Mhm.
And for me, when I see that, I'm just like, but I don't feel that when I'm reading it, to be
Yeah.
completely honest. I'm like, oh, this is about to get good.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that part of the scene where the underdog is just like, oh, word, I was holding back this whole time. And then they power up.
Yeah.
This is not Dragon Ball Z, so it doesn't work that way. But what does happen in this instance is that God gives them the victory.
Mm.
He delivers them. And it's in the most obscure way. They get pots, I believe,
Yeah.
torches. They start making sounds, and the enemy camp starts to attack themselves.
Mhm.
Um, and then they start fleeing and they get chased
Mm.
out even further. So it's incredible that like the most obscure, the most abstract, the thing that doesn't look like it'll work is the thing that actually winds up working.
With the least amount of people.
Precisely. It's not even an impressive tactic per se,
Yep.
not in accordance with what maybe they had
Yeah.
in mind. They thought maybe we need several more thousands of men to be able to combat this
Yeah.
army, and God's like, I need less, and go pick up some pots on the way home.
Yeah. And you know what the crazy thing is? I feel like that's really how God works, is like he gives you this idea, and it's like you think that you gotta go get all of these
Yeah.
accreditations, these skills,
Yeah.
or whatever it may be to do it, and God's just like, no.
I didn't ask for it.
And then it still happens, and you're like, okay,
That
like
is.
I guess that's it then. And it's just like God's like, yeah, because if you keep focusing it on being on you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just, again, he loses the glory and you don't grow in your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it's about your faith.
Yeah, man.
It's about, who do you trust when times get tough? Yourself, your ability to get out of it, or God's ability to get you out of it? You know? And it's that, all of Israel's faith was also on the line.
Mm.
They needed, it's not just Gideon, all of them needed to see God was still with them, even though they chose against him.
I think it's just interesting because I thought of it. He needed to use the weakest link so that they could finally understand it's not you.
And that's just God's, honestly, like, you know how people have like a signature?
Mm-hmm. That's
That's
it.
just God's signature
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to me as Christians, and we still struggle.
Oh no, I every day.
The whole Bible is about that.
Mm.
And we still
Mm-hmm.
want to be great
Mm.
in our own,
It-
strength.
yeah.
And it's like, this doesn't mean don't try. It just means like you really have to ask yourself, how is God wanting you to achieve these goals that he's
Yeah.
put on your heart?
Yeah.
How is he wanting you to go about the vision that
Yeah.
he's put in you?
I think it's a struggle. Like that's the reality of it. We want control. I'm taking a Revelation hermeneutics class right now. And when you approach the Bible, you have predisposed biases that you're
Yeah.
coming in with. You have all these ideas that you want to see in the text. When we live out our lives, there's ideas and conclusions that we want to achieve and arrive at.
Yeah.
And the reality is we're not surrendering that over to God. When you go into the Bible, you have to say, Lord, have your way.
Yeah.
Show me your light, not mine, because our light is dim.
And the a prayer that I've been praying lately, because I'm going through something very like in tune with this, which
Mm.
is like, God, I need you to tell me who you created me to be, who I am. And I even told God, like, I have all of these ways,
Mm.
but I'm more scared of being disobedient. And I'd rather take the L's in
Yeah.
my flesh
Yeah.
than to be disobedient, because I do know your power.
Yeah.
I do know that my head knows you care for me. Maybe my heart sometimes struggles, and so it's kind of like that trust and obedience, which is a discipline. It is against your flesh. It is not easy. It takes active energy, physical, emotional, spiritual, mental energy to trust God and to obey.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you can see so many miracles and so many blessings, through Him.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep, trying to do it your own way,
Yeah.
again, even in a God-given vision, trying to do it in your own way, you can't see God working. You kind of inhibit Him from showing up in your life.
So it reminds me of a devotional that somebody was reading for us this morning. The idea was essentially that like when they relied on their own strength, that's when they essentially lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I never want to be that. Like, and it's hard because like my flesh is constantly clamoring.
And by the way, like, when it's not easy to not rely on your own strength, because
No,
there's also people that
right.
could be, I don't want to say it this way, but looking at you and judging you, being like, how are you going to get there? You don't have these
Oh,
skills.
always.
You don't have this, these credentials. You don't
No.
have, the
Time to experience.
experience, whatever it may be. So it's not just like it's impossible in our own head. Sometimes it's like, people discourage us.
Yeah. And then you want to try to fight back. You want to retaliate. You want to prove them.
And then you're just wrestling with God, being like, you told me. And then
And
this
he's
is God's like, I
calm
did,
down.
but not this way.
Facts. Yeah. And that's the thing. We get eager to try to get to these accomplishments sooner than we need to. And he's like, there's a whole detour I want to take you on that you get to see a little bit of like water and trees. And you're like, no, I want to get there now because I'm threatened. And it's like, just,
And this is where it reminds me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like Abraham and Sarah, where they're gonna have kids at the age of 100 or whatever. And I'm like,
yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
but it sucks because it's not like everyone else.
No. But at the
Everyone
same
else is having
time,
kids at like
do we
whatever.
remember anybody else from his time? Oh,
That's
okay, maybe. But what I'm trying to say is Abraham, like, we know of him still.
And that's why, like, to me also, and I try to do this too. I'm trying my best, and I've been doing it for years, but like, really cleanse myself from a lot of the things that the world has taught me.
Hmm.
That you need to have all these things in place by this age and everything, and you need to, do all this stuff to, be set up really well. And I'm like, if and we talked about this in the last podcast, but like, if life is a journey, if we're supposed to be sojourners,
Yeah.
if we're supposed to be journeying with God, we're never standing still. He's always taking us into one calling and then another calling and another calling, and all those callings are beyond us.
100%. And I think I want to finalize with this. Whatever calling that God has placed on your heart right now, the reason that I'm always putting out stuff that has something to do with like following that calling is because I get scared of the people who are literally just chilling idly and they're not listening to the voice of God and they're not discerning that God is calling them in this season, in this moment. It doesn't necessarily have to be a career path. It could be like, yo, go wear this, go do this. I'm asking you to go speak to this individual right now.
Yeah.
Your calling can be so many things, but the thing is, in a very practical sense, it is God's voice entering your life, and you get a
Yeah.
choice to listen to it, to
Yep.
pick up that call, or to deny it. And when you deny it, you fall back all the way into the divide.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that because you see how the Israelites have suffered. I myself in my own life have seen how I have suffered from ignoring God's voice. And in all honesty, if life is a journey, you don't want to take the route that is most often journeyed on, because in all honesty, look at where people are at. I want to take the route that God says is narrow.
Yeah.
Why? Because I trust him. I know that he'll get me through.
So I think that's basically it. Hopefully this story helped you to kind of see this model in action.
Yeah.
And also maybe this story also inspired you. That, if you feel like you're the least of these, if you feel like you don't have these skills, but God's calling you, He told you you're this mighty warrior, that you're going to, take on this endeavor that just seems so impossible, but because God called you, it is possible. Definitely study the story in more depth, and ask us any questions that you guys may have. This story is really special, because again, it shows that 7 circles for saints model in such clarity.
Yeah.
All of these things happening,
Yeah.
right? So Yeah, if you have any questions, let us know. Comments, and also prayers. We're here to pray for you guys as well. And I guess we'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.
Bye, guys.